All right, here we go. Thanks everyone for being on here tonight. It is Tuesday evening, March 17th, a little after 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And it is Tuesday Night Live with myself, Pastor Anthony, here on Daily Excellence. Thank you guys so much for being on the channel. We appreciate all of you taking your time to join us here as we discuss things that are taking place around the world this evening. And we'll do our best to try to get to everything that we can. But first, before we get into some of those topics, if you could, one, let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Secondly, if you can do me a huge favor by giving us a like, a thumbs up, share, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. Help us get those algorithms up and going. Let people know that we're here, because what often happens is notifications for us don't necessarily go out. And so a lot of the times, by the time people realize that we're on air and we're going, we're like already 45 minutes into the broadcast, and then we end up having a decent crowd right when we're logging off. And so maybe we can all do our part and just kind of hit those notifications and get things up and going for us. So appreciate that. Thank you, Kat Begley, for doing that sound check for us, and we appreciate everything you do for our channel. It's one of our moderators. We also got John Van Bell with us this evening. Appreciate your work there. We got Kimberly hanging out with us over from COT channel. We appreciate you tonight. Rattling Bones from Idaho, Belinda Repose. We got Tammy B 9510, Texas Girl 907 with us this evening. We got Shelly from Canada, I believe, with us tonight. We got Bob Lemon from East Texas with us. Rick Whittaker, thank you for being here tonight. Ardela says, hello, Anthony. I hope you're doing great. Did you hear about the meteorite that was being seen over Ohio? Yes, we are going to talk about that tonight. The article just pulled up as we were going live, so we will look at that tonight. Jason, watching while sorting at UPS. Well, glad you're able to have the opportunity to watch us while you're at work. That's pretty awesome. Thank you for that. And so good to have everybody on with us tonight. Those of you that are watching us over on Rumble tonight, it's good to have you with us. There is about a 20-second delay over on our Rumble channel. So we do apologize. Not much we can do there. It's just, so on a good night, it's usually only 10 seconds, but that's what's happening there. And then we have a few of you guys watching us over on X. Let's see how many we got over there with us right now. And we got looks like 3 of you watching over on X. So appreciate you guys tuning in over there. Whatever platform you're on, you can comment on that platform, and I will see it. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing us over on Telegram. We definitely appreciate that as well. Bent Rifle, good to have you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. So here's some of the topics we're going to get into this evening. A few things. One is, as was already mentioned, we will look at that rare daytime meteor that was visible over Cleveland, Ohio, with a sonic impact that was heard as far away as New York. We'll take a look at that. We're also going to look at Cuba. We've been talking about Cuba. I've been telling you guys we're going to take Cuba. And Cuba is back in the news again. So Trump says that he'll do anything he wants with Cuba. What does that mean? We'll take a look at that. We're going to look at what pro-Iranian hackers who claimed responsibility over the recent Microsoft outage. We're also going to look at a humanoid robot who was detained by a police officer after harassing an elderly woman. No one's been hearing about that. You haven't heard anything about that, but we are going to discuss that, and we will talk about some other issues that are going on as Iranian drone strikes destroys a fuel tank in Dubai airport, temporarily halting flights in that area. If we can get to that as well, and then of course we'll talk about the situation that's going on over in Iran. And if you guys didn't get a chance to check out Paul Begley's channel about 9 hours ago, he had a video over there about how some of the shrapnel from some of these ballistic missiles that have been flying over into Israel, how some of those have actually been hitting the Temple Mount. And I only mention that because last week we had Stephen Ben-Noon from Israeli News live here on the channel. We've had him on for the last 2 Tuesday nights. And last week, as we were getting ready to end the broadcast, we had mentioned a scenario of how the third temple could potentially be built. And I said, is it possible? I had asked Stephen, I said, is it possible that with this military exercise going on, is it possible that we could see a strike on the Temple Mount? Could the Dome of the Rock be hit? And he said that, yes, I think it could be hit, but he doesn't think it would be by the Iranians. It could be, a false FLAG. It could be, from a different person, but this could be done. And then we get a report today coming from Paul Begley's channel that shrapnel has been reported. Of course, I can't confirm that on my end, but it has been reported hitting the Temple Mount area. So I find that very interesting. We had discussed that. Then 2 weeks ago, we had discussed here on the channel about the Kurds getting involved and the ground warfare there in Iran, that there was a possibility they would get involved. And within 24 hours, news reports had come out that they did get involved. And so it was really interesting to see things kind of begin to take place after we had mentioned the scenarios here on the channel. So not trying to be boastful, not to toot our own horn, but just kind of lets you know, when you have discernment and you understand the times and the seasons that we're in, you can see things coming before the events take place. And so that's kind of what we're doing here on the channel. So we'll get into those discussion. Of course, we want you guys to follow us on our channel. All of our backups, DE Studios, which will be on later tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with a old broadcast from Council Time. That'll be up and going. Follow us over on our Facebook, Instagram. We got some new reels that will be coming out over there. And of course, we're on Rumble. We're on X, Patreon. Invite you guys to check us out on Patreon. We got some content that's going up over on Patreon that you're not going to find here on YouTube or anywhere else. And that content does become available after a few days for the public. So it means you will be able to see it for free. We don't charge for ours. We don't charge for COT content. But then there's some other content that we do put a bit of a paywall on just to kind of help things go on that channel. But then it does get released to the public for everyone to view for free. So check that out over on Patreon. Subscribe there. All you have to do is make an account, and then you have access to over 2,000 videos or files that are over on our Patreon. So please do that. All right, we'll get started here in just a moment. First, a quick word from our sponsor, EMP Shield, and then we'll be right back.
With over 37 models that can be used around the world, our family of EMP protection devices installs easily in minutes. Being employed this year by federal organizations and electrical companies, the EMP Shield has been tested at Keystone Compliance, a federally approved DoD testing facility. Also serving as one of the world's fastest whole home surge protection devices, working in less than 1 nanosecond, the EMP Shield will protect against electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, lightning, and all forms of power surges. Proven to withstand more than 40 EMP strikes with zero degradation, the EMP Shield is also one of the world's strongest surge protectors, capable of withstanding over 100,000 amps.
All right, that is EMP Shield. Go to empshield.com. Get $50 off your device. That's right, $50 off your device. We have one of the best discounts here online, especially on the YouTube page, for getting an EMP Shield. Use promo code DAILY to get that. Protect your home, your car, generator, anything that you have that has a circuit breaker on it. This device will protect it from electromagnetic pulses, lightning, anything that may come from the sun that would cause electromagnetic interference. This device does it. It's made here in the United States. It is not made overseas. And as you heard, our government, the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, all use this device. So, like I said, use promo code DAILY, get to $50 off of your device. And I've been told that it is easy installment from what I understand. So let's see. Denny Salino, good to have you on tonight. And Doe Mighty, Good to see you this evening. Thank you guys for popping on, being a part of our channel. And then we got Venus Sage. James, good to see you tonight. Looks like, James, you're from Canada as well. So love to see our Canadian friends on here tonight. George, good to see you tonight. So thank you all for being here. All right, let's get into these articles tonight. We'll start off with the rare daytime meteor that was felt in Ohio and across New York there. And here we go. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. Just a second here. There we go. A massive boom that shook northeast Ohio was reportedly heard as far away as New York as a result of a rare daytime meteor, Pittsburgh National Weather Service confirmed. It says here that a fireball streaking across the sky just before 9 a.m. and a dramatic video posted online showed the meteor flared up as it entered the atmosphere. Locals flocked to social media to report that the boom was so powerful that it rattled their homes and even knocked pictures off the walls. Meteorologist Jeff Tankak of 19 News said the boom was a result of a meteor breaking the sound barrier, meaning it was traveling at least 767 miles per hour at the time. According to the National Weather Service in Cleveland, the latest GLM imagery does suggest the boom was a result of a meteor, referring to a geostationary lightning mapper, which the Weather Service uses to count lightning strikes during a storm. Meteorologist James Eaker, whose dashboard cam captured the meteor along with his surprising expect-laid reaction, said he had just passed Mercer, Pennsylvania on Route 80 heading toward Ohio when he saw the shooting star careening across the heavens. So this was in Cleveland, or probably just east of Cleveland, heading toward Pittsburgh. Sonic boom from a fireball, aka meteor, breaking the atmosphere, which traveling at 767 miles per hour, heard from Cleveland all the way to New York. Shattering, or not really shattering, but shaking houses, causing pictures to be knocked off, that kind of thing. And so that's pretty much what's happening there in the Cleveland area. But you know, we see these intrusions come in from time to time, but it's very rare that we actually catch it in daytime across, and you actually see it in the daytime, because right now we're reaching that time where 9 a.m. is pretty bright now, as we're getting into the spring solstice season, with daytime daylight hours getting much longer and the mornings are starting to get brighter. So at 9 a.m. it's pretty bright, so to be able to see that with the naked eye is pretty interesting in itself. So where is it coming from? We don't know. But we do know that Mike from COT has been talking about that there would be a time coming soon where these bombardments are going to be increasing. So we'll keep an update on these things as they transpire. Okay, so that's what's happening there with that meteorite that broke through the Earth's atmosphere. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. We'll take a look at what's going on. We'll get into the pro-Iranian hackers claiming responsibility for the Microsoft outage. That happened this week as well. And of course, every news article we are looking at comes from End Time Headlines, which is a conservative news outlet. And so these guys do a pretty good job at keeping up to date with what's going on. But this was an article that came yesterday that says hackers supporting Iran claim to be behind today's Microsoft outage issues, while a collective that has urged Epic War allies to stand as unified Mujahideen on the cyber front is vowing to target more U.S. companies and conduct fundraising to beef up hackers' infrastructure. An Iranian group closely linked to cyber avengers that was previously focused on operational technology targets has also made a chilling yet unverified claim of responsibility for a deadly explosion at a Nebraska biofuels plant this past summer. While many of the site attacks reported in the past several days by pro-Iranian hackers still been focused on the Israel and Gulf nations allied with the United States, the Islamic cyber resistance in Iraq. The 313 team said last week that it launched a cyber offensive in response to Romania's Wednesday approval of the request by U.S. to use the country's bases for refueling planes and equipment for surveillance and satellite communications. Romanian government servers and digital assets now consider legitimate targets for the Islamic cyber resistance in Iraq. The 313 team, the group said in a Wednesday post on its Telegram channel, claimed first that it shut down the Romanian government's web portal for 2 hours. The group similarly claimed 2-hour attacks against Romania's military of defense and national agency for physical administration websites, and said that an attack on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs service froze the availability of e-visas for up to 5 hours. And so they're believing that the attack that we saw with Microsoft here recently was part of this Iranian group that has been attacking. Now, we do know, and this has been said, and the government's already come out with this. We've been hearing it for the last couple of weeks that the U.S. infrastructure is in danger of potential cyber attacks coming from Iran and any proxies that are related with Iran. We've been hearing about this for quite some time. We also have been hearing about, lone wolves and sleeper groups and things like that could potentially be released here in the United States that are taking place. And I think, in my personal opinion, that some of this is going on, but it's not being reported on the news because we've had reports of cyber attacks in the last several days. We've had reports of shootings or potential mass shootings taking place in churches and in schools. We had a report coming out of Texas of a drone that was allegedly Iranian made that came across the border of Mexico and then and attacked one of the refineries down in South Texas. But these things they're either being broadcast on X, or they might come out as a quick news clip in the media and then it goes away. But I think we are seeing some, how do I say this, nefarious activity coming from our enemies on U.S. soil without saying the word that we cannot say anymore. That's related with what we saw in 2001 in September. If you guys understand what I'm saying, I do believe that this has actually been happening, and I've been monitoring some of that. And you can look and see some of the news broadcasts over on X and some of the footage that's been coming out. And of course, everyone says we don't know who did this, or if they do know it, it is a part of somebody from the Middle East, but they will not come out and actually say which country did it, or they will refuse to use the word that we all know that it is, because they told us that when we got into this confrontation with Iran, that those groups would begin to awaken up and do what they need to do here in the United States. And of course, we allowed 10 million plus people. We don't know who all those people were that we allowed into the United States. Some were good, possibly. I think some were good and legitimately were trying to come over, but we had a lot of bad actors, allegedly, that came across the border. And now we're starting to see, in my personal opinion, some of the repercussions of that with some of these events that have been happening over the last week across the United States, and even around the world, but especially here in the U.S. Now, this is my personal opinion, okay? But this is basically what I'm seeing, and I'm sure some of you out there also have been probably taking note of the exact same thing that's taking place. So we'll keep an eye on things as they transpire and see what we can dig up. But as I always try to tell you guys, please use discernment. View things with your spiritual eyes and not your fleshly eyes, and see things for what they are. Connect the dots, okay? and you'll see things from a different perspective on that. All right, so we got that going on this evening. Let's take a look at what else we have here. Let's see. So we got that going on. And then we have here in the home front, we've got things going on with Cuba. And of course, as you guys know, in Cuba, there's no power tonight. The whole island is shut off. People are out in the streets because there's no oil. We have an oil blockade going on with Cuba. You know, the thing that I learned about Cuba just recently, and a lot of people don't know this, but in the early 1900s, the United States actually owned Cuba. Cuba was actually a U.S. territory for about 2 years. Just before World War I, there was the Spanish War between the United States and Spain, and it was over Cuba because of some of the oppression that Cuba was under with Spain, and it was affecting trade between Cuba and the United States because we were getting a lot of sugarcane and other products from Cuba at that time. And so the United States went in the early 1900s and got into a war, defeated Spain, and liberated Cuba. And it was actually a U.S. territory for 2 years. And then we turned Cuba over to its own citizens. And then not long after that, it became a communist country and got involved with Russia and other communist countries. And so now we see history, 100 years later, repeating itself with the United States once again looking like it may liberate Cuba again. Will it become a U.S. territory, or will we turn it over to the Cuban people again? We will see. But I thought it was very interesting when you look back about 100 years ago, some of the conflicts that were going on in our world. We were liberating Cuba. We were, on the brink of World War I. During that time, just after the Spanish War, we had upheaval kind of going on in the United States during that time. Then there was World War II. Then there was the Great Depression, and all these things that we faced from early 1900s to 1930. We're seeing it again in the early 2000s to 2020 mark. And so I think it's very interesting, history repeating itself in the United States. But anyway, let's get into this article here, because Trump says that he can do anything he wants with Cuba. Okay, so what is Trump wanting to do? The U.S. President Donald Trump escalated his rhetoric against Cuba on Monday, saying he expected to have the honor of taking Cuba in the same form, and that I can do anything I want with the neighboring country. The threatening statements come even as Cuba and the United States have openly talked aims at improving their largely adverse relations, which have reached one of their most continuous moments in 67 years since Fidel Castro overthrew what had been a close U.S. ally. And the reason why it was a U.S. ally is because it was at one time a U.S. territory. I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That's a big honor. Taking Cuba in some form. Trump told reporters as the island faces unprecedented economic crisis exacerbated by the oil blockade the U.S. imposed after capturing former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth, Trump told reporters at the signing event in the Oval Office. After Trump spoke, the New York Times reported that removing Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel from office is a key U.S. objective in bilateral talks. Citing four people familiar with the talks, the Times said the Americans have signaled to Cuban negotiators that Diaz-Canel must go, but are leaving the next steps up to the Cubans. Cuba has traditionally rejected any interference in its internal affairs and has considered any protocols on that front a deal breaker for any agreements. And so We see this in Cuba, that Trump is stating that Cuba is in the position that he can do whatever he wants to it. So, better basically stating that if Cuba wants to, um, you know, basically the United States is in the position to kind of make Cuba do whatever they want them to do because they're cut off. And there really isn't anything for Cuba to do. They've got a blockade. They've got them surrounded. And honestly, in my personal opinion, I think Donald Trump knows his history. And I think he knows what I just told you guys a little bit ago, that at one time Cuba was a U.S. territory that we fought for, and we actually owned it, and then we turned it over. And I think Trump is trying to return Cuba back to the U.S. as a territory, like Puerto Rico, like Guam, and like some of the other Virgin Islands that are U.S. territory. In my personal opinion, this is just me, I think that's the plan. I think that Trump is going to, the idea here anyway, is to overthrow their government, take Cuba, make it become a self-governing country by the Cuban people under the guidelines of being a U.S. territory, much like Guam and much like Puerto Rico, which both countries and even like some of the Virgin Islands, those countries are all have their own governments, and their own systems of how they do things. But at the end of the day, it is a U.S. territory, and they have representation on Capitol Hill. And so I think, in my personal opinion, I kind of sort of think that's the direction that Trump is going with this. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think we're getting close to getting some pretty big news coming out of Cuba. It'll be interesting to see, to be able to, have flights that can take you to Havana, or be able to go down there and check out what's going on. So Donna says, when I think of America's past history, it's not very good for people in this country and other countries. So yeah, history has a way of repeating itself. And of course, remember, I think it was in the 1950s, we had dealings with Cuba and the Cuban missile crisis that caused all the schools across the country to do like nuclear bomb drills, where they would hide under their desk and prepare for fallout and things like that. And we could return to those days again, except we're at a time now where people will actually pull the trigger. That we're not seeing too much in the way of cold wars, but everything seems to be turning into hot wars now, because we're starting to see people pull the trigger, and we'll see what happens. But that's what's going on there. Oh, let's bring it back over to me and see what else we have going on in the news. Let's see. Of course, we got in the news today. I'm not going to bring this article up because it's kind of old, but Trump warns that the United States is ready to destroy Iran's crown jewel within minutes, which we did go in on March 13th. And we did go in. We actually did bomb Iran's crown jewel. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Iranian crown jewel is, it's basically an island off the Iranian coast that pretty much all the oil from Iran flows to that island, and they barrel up those islands. That they barrel up all that oil on those islands, and it's like millions of barrels get funneled to that island daily, and it basically the income that comes from all that on an island pretty much supplies and keeps the entire country of Iran up and going. Keeps their power, jobs, infrastructure, food, jobs for the citizens, all that stuff up and going for them. And so we see that Trump did go in on March 13th and did do some strategic bombing around the crown jewel, basically infrastructure, things like that. However, he withheld from hitting oil exports or the fields in that area. But if they don't start playing ball, he has threatened to finish the job and take out the strategic oil reserves on that island, which would completely obliterate, allegedly anyway, obliterate the economy in Iran and setting them back a really long time. So there is that potential there. So we did see that Trump did that. Also, there's been rumors in the news, mainly in the back channels. There's been rumors that Netanyahu was injured or potentially taken out in some of the attacks in Israel. I personally have not seen that. These are all just rumors up until this point. I don't think they're true in my personal opinion, but there are rumors circulating that Netanyahu is not alive anymore. So I don't know about that. We'll see what happens with that piece of news. But I personally, and my personal feeling is, I think it's just rumors. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in that. He probably is alive, maybe in a bunker somewhere. But those are some rumors that are circulating. But my gut feeling and my understanding is that he is alive. But we'll keep you guys up to date should something change there. Let's take a look at this as well. Rick says, I've heard that also, but I don't think it's true either. Yeah, I'm kind of, we're living in a time now, especially when you get into war. There's a lot of propaganda that is going everywhere. And I've seen it, especially if you have an X account and you just watch the feeds that come up, just your normal like home feeds, you just see the propaganda everywhere. I've seen propaganda coming out of North Korea stating that Jerusalem's been completely destroyed, and they have AI footage showing this horrible attack on there. And of course, if you live in North Korea and you see this footage, it looks extremely real. But, being who we are here in the West, we know that was AI generated. We see things, I've seen things posted from the Iranian side. I've seen things posted from the Israeli side, and both are stating that they're winning. Both are stating how much damage they have done. I've seen things from the American side that make me wonder as well. There's a lot of propaganda that is just being pumped through social media right now. And so you have to be very careful about what you air online, about what you believe, about some of the news that's coming out. There's a lot taking place. And so, but that's kind of what the art of war is, because you have a ground offensive, you have an air offensive, then you have a mental offensive as well, to kind of scramble people's thoughts and perceptions. And then, as my father-in-law always says, there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. So we're seeing the sides of the stories. I don't think we're seeing a whole lot of truth. And if we do see anything that is truthful that does come out, it's like encased with a ton of propaganda surrounding it or swirling around it. So it makes it kind of difficult to know what you're really looking at. So you have to be very careful when we show things like that. So let's see here. Oh, here we go. Let's turn our attention to the robots. Yeah. This is going to be an interesting article. This came out yesterday. Excuse me. It says a humanoid robot is detained by police after harassing an elderly woman. And so you see this. Here's something very interesting. But you see this humanoid robot, number 734, being arrested. Did they read him his rights? Anyway, you see him being arrested. But it says this: a humanoid robot was taken into custody by Malku police after it appeared to harass the woman. After it appeared to harass the woman on a public street. The video shows the robot being surrounded by people on this street as the nearly 7-year-old woman berated it. Filmed by an onlooker, the robot was seen raising its arms twice as the woman yelled at it. "You're making my heart race," she told the robot in Cantonese. It says, "You can do plenty, but You want to cause this mess? You're crazy. The woman wearing a blue shirt and white pants pointed her finger at the robot as others watched in disbelief. Police were later seen escorting the robot away from the scene. According to local media, the woman was later taken to hospital. She was not physically injured in the strange ordeal and was later discharged. And so, yeah, you can kind of see, this robot approaches this elderly woman who's 70 years old. And I guess the robot was kind of harassing her by throwing its arms at her and just kind of, I don't know if the robot said anything. It doesn't appear. It just, uh, I don't know. It looks like the robot was just mainly just kind of raising its hands at the woman. Maybe wouldn't leave her alone or anything like that. And so it looks like law enforcement got in control and took this thing away. So my question is like, do these countries have these robots just walking around? I mean, are other countries already, having these robots just kind of walking down the street? Like, what was the purpose of this robot even being out there? Why was it like not attended to? Like, where was their handler at? Like, I got questions about this. Like, was this robot part of law enforcement? Was this robot part of a surveillance team? What's going on here in this Cantonese country where these humanoid robots are just walking around and have the ability to, or the option anyway, of harassing an individual? It's a little bit interesting. I got questions on this. Like, I'm a little bit more curious as to why this thing is walking on the streets and what they're doing with this. And, I don't think the lady was freaked out so much by seeing it. It doesn't appear. I think she was freaked out that it came to her and would not leave her alone. Okay, so it wasn't the idea of actually seeing this robot, which tells me that this must be commonplace here. I don't know. Maybe somebody from the region knows it's live. Who knows? But I find it very interesting that we have these things rolling by, and you can see from the photo here. I'll bring it up there. It's got a number, right? It's got a number. Unit 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 734. And if you go by traditional unit, that means that's the 734th humanoid robot made. Okay. Out of what stock or wherever, we don't know. So obviously there's 733 more of these things roaming around somewhere over there. Just a thought. So I got questions. I wish I had answers, but I got questions about that and where that's coming. And I did tell you guys several months ago that this time next year, these things are going to be commonplace because they're rolling them out on the assembly line. Like, you can pre-order one for your home now. You can go online and pre-order a humanoid robot for your home now. I think it's like $500 down. It's $20,000 to own one in your house. Help you do dishes, fold your laundry, stuff like that. They're rolling these things off. It's happening now. I don't know when they're going to debut, but you can pre-order one. And I think this time next year, these guys are going to be commonplace. And so that article kind of proved my point that I talked about a few months ago, maybe even a few weeks ago about that. So, let's see what else we got going on here. Jessica, good to have you on. Yes, everything is going well. Thank you for being on the channel tonight. Rick, yes, it's just like the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. If anybody ever saw that several years ago, might have been decades ago now. That didn't end well, did it? Oh, it did not. And then even in that movie, they used humanoid robots in that movie. Of course, they were fake at that time, but what they looked like in that movie is what they're rolling off the assembly now. So this kind of goes to show you that Hollywood always portrays things kind of gives you an idea of what's happening before it takes place. Okay, so let's see what else is taking place here. So that's what's going on there. Let me check somewhere else real fast and see if we got any updates this evening. I'm gonna run over here real quick. Danny, thanks for sharing us over on X tonight. I do appreciate that, sir. And let's go over to X this evening. There is, of course, if those who've been following what's been going on today with the new bill they're trying to pass, the voter registration bill in Washington. Of course, I don't quite understand everything that's happening with that, but the Senate did a test vote today, and it did pass for the America. Oh, what is it called? The Save American Act. So it did go through today. So now they're going to begin hearing arguments. I guess a filibuster is going to get started to try to get the votes that they need. I think the original plan was to try to get 60 votes in the Senate, which if they would have done that, it would have bypassed the filibuster, went straight to the House, where there it would have quickly passed and gone straight to Trump's desk. But for some strange reason, they decided to push it early, not getting the 60 votes that they needed. And so now they only got like 53 votes or 51 out of 48, which is now launching a floor takeover war. And now there's going to be a filibuster. So the Democrats are going to have to come out and do a whole lot of talking for a very long time about how they don't want voter ID, about how they want illegals to vote, things like that. And so that's going to be going on for who knows how long, and the back and forth before they can get those 60 votes that they need to get past Chuck Schumer. So that's kind of my understanding of what's going on there on the political realm there. So that was taking place today here in the on the U.S. side. Let's see. Kimber says, I have a voter registration card. They ask you every time. They ask you every time you call a government agency. Yeah, I mean, voter registration cards are very easy to get. I mean, you can get them at the post office. Every time you go get your license renewal, you can get them. I mean, it's not hard to obtain some type of voter ID, but they act like that people don't know how to do it. They act like the majority of the population is uneducated and needs help voting and all these things. And so, of course, we can go down the rabbit hole that brings us into. But this is actually one of the few times, I think, and even CNN and some of these liberal medias have had to actually backpedal and produce the real numbers, as 80% of the U.S. population, based on polling anyway, do support this. And so it's going to be very interesting to see the Democratic Party come out and have to, slam what 80% of the U.S. population, including both Republicans and Democrats, both parties of constituents and voters actually want this, and the Democrats are actually going to be going against the wishes of their own constituents and voters by coming out and saying that we don't need this. And so it'll be interesting how this is going to go forward and be portrayed as days go by. So let's see. But let's see. It seems to be everything. So that's kind of what's going on. This thing's actually still going on right now. I think you can turn on C-SPAN and watch it if you want to. So, but anyway. I think that's all tonight that we have. So yeah, that's all we got this evening on this. But hey, we're getting closer to the end times, guys, and that's pretty much what we do here on Tuesday nights. We just kind of watch. Thank you so much for that super chat, by the way. Oh, let's see, Chance Seafoods. 4299. Thank you so much for that super chat. We really and greatly appreciate that. God bless you for that. But yeah, we do this on Tuesday nights just to keep you updated with what's going on. But all this stuff is leading to the end times prophecy. It's leading to wars and rumors of wars. This thing going on with the Iran. We talked about this a little bit with Stephen Ben-Noon last week. If you want to check that out with Ezekiel 38:39. It is leading to that. It's not, though, the Ezekiel 38:39 war that we're seeing yet. I know some people are coming out and saying that. It's not. And a huge clue to that, by the way, of why it's not, is because we are involved. Okay? Ezekiel 38:39 is an end times war where Israel gets trampled on. And as of right now, the only thing that stops Israel from being trampled on is the United States. Now, when they do become trampled on, that's because something has happened to us here. In the United States. And so this is leading to Ezekiel 38:39. However, it is not. Okay. But this is the forerunner of that because we're still involved. Now, something happens here in the United States that will cause us not to be involved in Ezekiel 38:39 and the trampling of Jerusalem and the attacks of Israel that would come from the north, which we believe to be Russia and Persia, which is modern day Iran, because remember, Persia, back in the 1930s, Iran was Persia, if you know your history. And of course, Ethiopia, Turkey, all these countries that surround it will be getting involved. They're not involved now against Israel because, like I said, the United States is in the area, but something will happen to cause us not to be there. Whether it's civil unrest here in the United States, whether something happens, a new superpower rises up and we just lose. We lose that statue and we become like, England, for example, or we become like Rome, like Italy. They're there, they have commerce, but, all you get is a voice, but nobody really cares what you have to say. You can't save nobody because you're just not there anymore. No offense to anybody watching from England or from Italy. I only bring those two countries up because at one time there was an English empire, and another time there was, of course, the Roman empire during Jesus' days. Both empires fell. They're still around today, but they don't have much influence in the war front these days. And so, but something happens to the United States. We're not involved in Ezekiel 38:39 per se, or maybe we do get involved, but we are with the rest of the world. We may be mixed in, but something happens that we're not there for Israel's aid. And so that's how BP EarthWatch says that Turkey is Gog. Yeah, and it would be. Turkey is part of that Persian Empire back in the day, all that was. And then, of course, Russia, the bear from the north. So, yes, that is correct. And so that's your big telltale sign when people start coming out and saying, oh, well, Gog and Magog is getting started. It may be leading to Gog and Magog, and I think this war will. But we ain't there yet because we're still there in the Middle East, okay? And like if someone says it may take place under a different president, very possibly could happen under this president. You never know. We're stretched so thin militarily. We got our hands all over the place. NATO's turning against us. They're not getting involved. We may be pulling out of NATO. We may be losing a lot of our allies, which they're not really allies to begin with if they don't back you up. So, all those things are on the table as of today. So it's pretty interesting to see these things, but it's part of the end times narrative. We know where this is going to go. We know for the rising of a one world government, the United States is going to have to submit in one way or another. We're not going to be the superpower. We're not going to be the superpower for long. And I hate to say that. That doesn't mean I'm un-American. Doesn't mean I'm not patriotic. Doesn't mean I don't love my country. It just means I know the word of God. And I know in the scenario that we're facing and what's coming, At some point we're going to have on a prophetic timetable somewhere, we're going to have to step aside so that everything else can be fulfilled. However, I do think one of the last things that we will have our hand in here in the United States is I think we will have something to do with the building of the third temple. And as I mentioned last week with Stephen Bendanoon, when that thing gets built, and I think it's coming very soon, I think that we're going to see some kind of activity over the next week or two or sometime this year. As long as this back and forth goes on with Iran, there is the chance that we could see something fall on the Dome of the Rock and take out the Temple Mount. And if that happens, that opens a huge door for something to get built there. Okay. And it very well could be the third temple. It could be our president who negotiates that with Israel and with the powers at be. And that may be the last power play we see out of the United States in the Middle East. I think after that is when we have to step aside over here. That's my personal opinion, because I don't see any other country that would back the United States. That would back Israel in getting this project done. Now, like I said last week, going back to that, when this happens, this is not something to celebrate. Okay, as Christians, people are going to be hooping and hollering, praising God, and saying this is awesome. Jesus is coming back. People are going to get excited. This is not something to get excited about when this takes place. This is an abomination that's going to take place. Okay, building that temple is going to be an abomination before God, because that's bringing back the ritual of animal sacrifices, bringing back the 300 plus laws from the Old Testament, bringing into fruition, as Stephen Bendanoon would talk about, the Noahide laws. This is not good. Okay, this is not something we want, but we know from a biblical and prophetic perspective, this is what's going to happen. Okay, and we know that it will be desecrated because the man of perdition will come in and declare himself as God. And of course, we know that to be the Antichrist. And so this will really propel us into the end times narrative. And so a couple takeaways tonight. Yes, things are taking place. We're moving somewhere at breakneck speed. The prophetic clock did not stop because Trump got in office. If anything, it may have picked up even more. This war between Iran and Israel was spoken about in Jeremiah, and it was spoken about in Ezekiel 38:39. The prophets, the book of prophets or the prophetic books in the Old Testament have talked about this. We're here. We're at this point. It's not Ezekiel 38:39 yet because we're still involved. However, it could lead us into that in the near future. And like I said, I personally believe in that one of our last acts in the Middle East as a country will be the support of the building of the third temple. And I think it will happen under this administration that we currently have in office. That's my personal opinion. It very well could be that Trump gets moved out of office. We get somebody else in who does it. Could be a Republican, could be a Democrat, could be somebody else. That is possible. But I do think the United States will have a huge hand in that taking place, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Okay. But that's just my gut feeling on all of this. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being on the channel. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast and what we deliver here on Tuesday nights, please like, share, subscribe, share this out to your friends. Feel free. You can mix these things. You can make, you can make shorts if you want, things like that. You have my permission to do that. Anything you do to get the word out, we would really appreciate that on our end. So thank you so much for being here tonight. God bless you. We do plan on being on here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Pastor Talk. We are intentionally planning on being on here, but we'll see what happens. I do have several meetings scheduled tomorrow evening at my school tomorrow at parent-teacher conference and things like that. And so if those things do go over, we may not come on, but I'm planning on being here. And we have a guest speaker that'll be on with us tomorrow night. So that is the plan. Of course, we'll have videos for COT, fresh broadcasts up for you guys this weekend, Friday through Sunday at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, we have our older broadcasts from 2015. We're almost done with the year 2015 next month or two, and then we'll be uploading 2016 over on DE Studio, so you don't want to miss that. So we do appreciate everything that you guys have for us there. All right, with that being said, everyone, God bless you. Thank you for being here. Remember, you may be the only Jesus someone sees this week, so please keep a smile on your face. Check out all of our links in the descriptions box below. Subscribe to all of our things that we have for you. And we will see you tomorrow night for Pastor Talk at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night, everyone.